Y'all ready for this?
Welcome to the L Cubed YouTube College Life Influencer Show, where we find YouTubers you're going to love and clip out the best advice that can help you graduate on time with a GPA you can feel good about. Our episode today is about the debate of whether goals or systems are better at helping us get what we want out of life. We have some pretty impressive panel members to weigh in today. What do we mean by a goal and a system? Well, a goal leads to something in the future, and a system is what we focus on today. And sometimes the terms result and process or destination and journey are used instead, but the concept is the same. So let's begin with a little friendly debate between Scott Adams and the late Zig Ziglar. Do we need goals or do we need systems?
As opposed to goals, what I recommend people look at is a system. A system is something you do every day, and you don't have a specific goal, but it's moving you in the right direction, in the sense that it's moving you from a place of low odds to a place with better odds.
Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence is absolutely overwhelming. You must have those goals. You cannot make it as a wandering generality. You must become a meaningful specific.
Wow, two great positions. Let's have a few others weigh in on the topic.
Goal setting is fascinating because it's sort of a broken process in many respects. This is the way a goal works. You say to yourself, when I achieve whatever the thing is, that's how I'll know I'll have succeeded, and I'm going to do everything I can to get to that point as quickly as possible. What that means is you exist in a failure state for a long time until you reach that goal, if it's a long-range goal. And so as you evaluate your process, all you get is the negative feedback of not having achieved that goal. Perhaps as you move closer to it, there's some positive feedback. But if the goal is really the end state that you're seeking out, there's a lot of failure before you get there. And now here's the thing, when you do get there, it's a massive anticlimax. So there are people who achieve the highest highs, people who achieve the highest highs in athletics, in business, and if you talk to them and you ask them to describe what it's like to reach their goals, they say things like, I got there and it was an incredible anticlimax. The minute I got there, I had to start something new, I had to find a new goal. And that's partly because there's something really unsatisfying about the moment of reaching the goal. Unless it has its own benefits that come from reaching the goal, if it's just a sort of signpost, that doesn't do much for us. It doesn't nourish us psychologically. And what that ends up meaning is that we have to try and find something new. So really, if you look at life as a series of goals, which for many of us it is, it's a period of being unsuccessful in achieving the goal, then hitting the goal, then feeling like you haven't really got much from that goal, going to the next one, and it's a sort of series of escalating goals.
In 1979, interviewers asked the Harvard MBA program how many of them set goals. They found that 84% of the program set no goals at all, 13% of them set goals but they weren't committed on paper, and only 3% actually set goals that were committed on paper and had plans to accomplish them. 10 years on, in 1989, they interviewed the same individuals again. The results were absolutely staggering. They found that those 13% who set some goals but hadn't had them down on paper were making twice as much as the 84% who had never set a goal. And even more staggering was the fact that the 3% who had committed goals written on paper had actually been making more money than the 97% put together.
More than 97% put together? That's a very compelling argument for setting goals. But I think there's some research out there to support process-focused thinking.
So recently on the blog, I've been talking a lot about the problems with outcome-focused thinking and the benefits of process-focused thinking. Now, there's been several studies that have been conducted that show the benefits of process-focused thinking. But just to kind of talk you through it very briefly, there's two main problems when we focus on the outcome of our efforts. First of all, we lose sight of the growth and progress made along the way while we were working towards achieve that desired outcome. And then secondly, we neglect to create a strategy or a process that will lead us to success. But when we focus on the process, we're able to focus on what we can do daily to achieve our goal. And we're not obsessing with and focusing on the future outcome that we're working towards. We're instead just worrying about what we can do every single day to ensure that we move closer and closer to achieving our set goal for ourselves?
Not focused on the future outcome. Don't we need to have some kind of vision?
You don't have vision, you're roadkill. You're not going to make it. If all you're looking at is making it till Friday, all you're looking at is making it through this Q1, all you're looking at is making your short-term numbers, you're not looking past the nose on the end of your face, you're not thinking out there 12 months, 12 years, where there is no vision, you die. That's pretty extreme. But, I mean, none of us in here would really disagree with that, would we? If all you think is tactically, in other words, and never think strategically, you only think about the next task instead of getting above and do a 30,000-foot flyover and go, wait a minute, we have the ladder against the wrong building and we are climbing. You know? You never do that. You're going to die. You're going to die. And so you've got to think about things like this more than just making payroll Friday, more than just collecting that receivable, more than just closing that next deal. And those things have to happen too. We have to do the tactical. We have to do the work of running a business. Our team has to too. But we need to all be talking about all the time dreams to visions.
I think Tony agrees too.
What is the power of goals? Why do we talk about them so much? Why do we need to use them? Why are they important? Answer, with goals, we create the future in advance. We create our destiny. We shape our lives. Hey, we all have goals, whether we know it or not. The problem is some people have really lousy goals. And whatever your goals are, they're affecting you. Maybe your goals are to get through this day. Maybe the goals are how to pay the lousy bills. The problem with goals like that is they don't exactly inspire you and get you to jump out of bed early in the morning saying, I can't wait to go out today and pay my lousy bills. Rarely does that really create emotion and drive inside of you. Goals can create the power to make us grow and expand and develop our success. But we've got to have something out there that's compelling enough to draw us forth. Done properly and specifically, they transform our lives.
So, what is so wrong with having a vision and a dream?
The standard narrative about habit change, success, performance improvement, achieving a goal is that you need to set a goal and that you need to try really hard. And if you haven't achieved that, then it's because you don't have the willpower or the grit or the perseverance. And we tell ourselves these kind of internal narratives all the time too, you know, like, oh, maybe if I really wanted it, then I'd achieve it. One of the most effective feelings, one of the most motivating states is the feeling of progress.
Yeah.
And if you're focused on feeling guilty, blaming yourself for not improving, feeling like, oh, I'm not able to build better habits because something's wrong with me, that's not a very productive state to be in. Whereas if you shift it and say, all right, the problem is not me, the problem is the system. And if I'm going to change the system, then I can do X, Y, and Z. And we can talk about a variety of those strategies. But each time you do that, you take action and you build progress and momentum. And so I think it is a much more productive way to approach the process of change because it gives you something to actually work on. I mean, all the rest of these strategies, a lot of the time it's about stuff like, think positive or fake it till you make it or stuff like that. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. Like certainly if you want to think positive, it sounds better than thinking negatively. But my focus is much more on practical action steps. How can we make the process of behavior change actionable and give you something to do to design a system where you're more likely to succeed? And so I think that's just a better place to spend your time and energy.
We set goals for ourselves, but our goals are things that are outside of our control. Whatever it is you want to achieve in your life, if you're a student and you want to get an A in a class, that's outside of your control. You don't get to write A's on all of your papers. You have a teacher who's going to grade those papers. You have a teacher who's going to give you assignments. Somebody else is setting the curriculum. Somebody else is grading you. You don't control what your grade is. If you want to be the world's best salesman, you don't get to make all the sales yourself. You don't get to do both sides of the transaction. You got to recruit customers into your life. Goals require you to have the participation of other people. Therefore, they are outside of your control. So if you spend too much time focusing on your goals, you never achieve them. Behaviors, by contrast, are things that you alone can do. It doesn't take a parent, a teacher, a coach, a friend, a neighbor, a spouse, a child. It doesn't require anyone else. You alone can do behaviors. And behaviors are the things that you focus on in order to achieve your goals.
I'm confused. Goals are bad?
I should say goals do serve a purpose, right? It's not that they're useless. They are good for setting a sense of direction and clarity, so figuring out where do I direct my attention. And they're good for filtering. And what I mean by that is it's very easy as you go throughout life for people to come to you with a different opportunity, or you find out about a new area that you're interested in, and you start to say yes to things because, oh, this is new and exciting. But if you have a goal, it's much easier to say no to the things that intrude, right? So if you're training for the Olympics and your friends want to go to the bar, it's very easy to say no because your goal gives you a much cleaner filter to determine, does this move me in the direction I want to go or not? So those are things goals do well.
Okay, I think I'm understanding now. Goals are our why, and systems are our how.
See, dreams are wishes that seldom happen. You don't want to just be a dreamer. To be labeled that in our culture would be a negative connotation. But to dream is a good thing. To dream big is a good thing. To do what Colin says, to have a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal. That's a good thing. To be crazy out there and to think bigger than other people have thought, that's dreaming. That believes you have hope. It believes you think you can impose your will on the marketplace. Those are good things. But dreams are just wishes. Life doesn't hand you your dreams. You have to get up, leave the cave, kill something, and drag it home. You have to make your dreams happen. We know that. Simon Sinek is a young speaker that's doing a great job out there. He has a book called The Power of Why. And what you're doing when you dream and you convey your dream to other people, you are talking about the why. Dreams are essential to winning, but they got to come out of the clouds so that they're more tangible and touchable. And so I see these words as a progression, and that's the way I'm going to teach you, and then you decide whether you want to apply that to your life and to your team or not. But we see that dreams are necessary, but they're kind of up here in the clouds. They're a little bit hard to see. They're not real concrete. And you have to do some things to kind of pull them down out of the clouds and start to actually cause them to have practical application in your life. As they come out of the clouds, the next level, you start blowing off the mist off of some of them. Now you start to see the shape of it. You start to see the depth of it, the size of it. It's no longer foggy. It's not completely clarified, but now we call it a vision. And a more tangible, touchable dream then is called a vision. It's the next step of evolution in the process. You're thinking big, but then you got to go do something to start to make it happen. And you're starting to realize that this task or this undertaking, when it comes out of those clouds, is a pretty big deal. And it's something that it's going to require action.
I think part of the problem with goals is that they don't tell you how to get to where you're going. A better thing to do is to use a system. So the idea behind a system rather than a goal is that a system is saying things like, I'm a writer. My goal is to finish writing this book, but I'm not going to think about it that way. Eventually I'll have 100,000 words, but what my system will be that for an hour every morning I will sit in front of my computer screen and I will type. It doesn't matter what that looks like. I'm not going to evaluate the number of words. I'm not going to set some benchmark, some artificial number or benchmark that I should reach. What I'm going to do is just say, here's my system, an hour a day in front of the screen, will do what I can, bam. And the thing is, every time you set a system and you stick to it, you're achieving something. Instead of a goal that you're failing, essentially, for long periods of time until you reach the goal, you're succeeding every day as long as you adhere to your system. And you end up getting to the same place, but that framing is so much more effective. It gives you the kind of positive feedback you seek. And a system is kind of geared towards psychological well-being. This is the thing I need to do to feel good about the way I'm moving through the world towards whatever end state I'm looking for. Goals don't do that. They just set signposts that you're supposed to look at from afar and move towards. Systems are a much more useful way of engaging with the world towards certain ends and certain outcomes.
Okay. And systems work when they become daily habits or actions, right?
Aristotle said you are what you repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence ought to be a habit, not an act. Don't ever forget that.
Because fundamentals have to be practiced daily. Hey, think about the greatest coaches that you can think of in sports history. Names that come up for me are names like Vince Lombardi, for example, or John Wooden. What were they known most for? Teaching fundamentals to people that were already the best at what they do. I mean, think about it. John Wooden would take a basketball player, a kid who's the best in the world at what he does virtually, at least for his age group, and he can make a shot from virtually anywhere, and he go, that's really cute, kid. Get over here, and I want you to shoot 400 free throws. And kid says, I can do that. He said, yeah, well, let's see you do it. Or come over here, and I want to see you shoot 500 bank shots from 5 feet. Well, I can do that, the kid would say. He goes, yeah, I know you can do it, and you're going to do it every day this many times so that you do it in the key clutch moments. You got to practice fundamentals every day. He won 11 consecutive national championships, unlike any team in history. That's the power of fundamentals.
So what advice does anyone have about getting started?
Let's start by talking about creating systems for your life. If you wake up in the morning and roll over on your bed and turn on your phone, and then you scroll through Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and see who messaged you and all these things, and then when you feel like it, you turn over, you get up, and then you brush your teeth, and then you go and sit down on your desk and you think, should I do work or should I take a nap? If that's you, you're throwing away your time. Know what you want to get done first, and then create a structured and specific to-do list. You don't want to just tell yourself, make $300 today, because what are you going to sell? Who are you going to sell it to? Where are you going to get the product, and how much you're going to sell it for? You need to create systems, and the only way you can do that is by being specific on what you want to get done.
That what you need to change is not necessarily your goal, but your system. And the phrase that I like to use is, we do not rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. And so if you can restructure the system or the environment you find yourself in, whether that means changing your physical environment, so we can talk some about that, like the things on your desk at work or your kitchen counter at home, changing your social environment, the people that you're surrounded by and the habits that are normal in your particular tribe, whatever that group happens to be, changing your approach and the habits you're asking yourself to build so you can keep your lofty ambitions and goals, but breaking them down into something that's easy to do. And finally, selecting a strategy that fits well with your particular makeup, with your personality, your genes, your circumstances, so that you essentially match your environment to your natural strengths. And all of those are examples of a way to build a better system, of a way to create a system that promotes good habits effortlessly and sort of lets you achieve your goals as a natural consequence of being in a good system, rather than saying it's all about the goal, let me focus on this milestone and work hard toward that.
Really, I think that designing your life and making it go forward in the direction you want it to go forward has 3 parts. And the very first part is the design. The second part is the habits you use or you do on a daily basis. And the third is the follow-through, or the follow-up. In other words, how do you actually stay on track when you get off track? Because half of the game of goal achievement is purely when you get punched in the face, what are you going to do differently to get back up and get back in the fight? Now, for me, the first thing is vision. It's basically the design. You know, if you just sit down for a day, you pour a coffee, you get out a piece of paper, and you write down what would be the coolest thing that could happen over the next 5 years in my life. If you just do that, you are already ahead of 99% of humanity who show up with no game plan, no vision for the future, no clue what they would like to create besides, you know, I would like more money, or I'd like that girl or that guy, or I'd like a nicer car. There's almost no consciousness or conscious energy given to thinking about, what do I want to build in the future? Like, what consciously and concretely do I want to improve?
All right, there you have it. We need goals and systems to get what we want out of life. And when we focus on the daily actions we need to take to realize our desired destiny, we enhance our journey and increase our chance of reaching that destiny. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.